I want to share a few thoughts on the link between media and technology and software. And the reason I want to talk about this is because for the past few weeks, I've been really diving deep into software and things of that nature. And I've been really questioning what does it mean to compute. And, this comes from an idea of everything being data, everything being information. This is a tenet of mine that I go by, which is everything that you experience is just information, it's just data, it's ones and zeros that we can all manipulate. For example, people often consider emotions to be very powerful, very strong, but for me, I've managed to see emotions as just data, and by seeing emotions as just data, then I'm able to center myself in a way that allows me to take control of my emotions. So instead of emotions being something that wells out of me that I cannot control, emotions are just information that are telling me or pointing me to an imbalance or something that I don't like or I'm not comfortable with. So with that being said, that's one perspective, and so you take this a little further and you start to realize, okay, so what if I see everything as data? And what's another thing that works with data? And that's going to be computers. Computers compute. They look at numbers and they then give off other information. So now I still am working on my definition of computing, but through my exploration, I've been able to see the link between computation and physics, like quantum physics, relating that to quantum computers, and what the findings in technology are bringing forth. This is also coming from my deep dive into AI and just really seeing the implications of AI. And so what I'm finding is that there's a link between video and I was wondering, what is the mp4? And I thought that mp4 was going to be virtual reality, but because virtual reality is so far ahead, I still think there's at least another 10 years left for virtual reality to be something that's really usable. I was wondering that I think we're already on the precipice of mp4, and why is this so important? Because if we look at mp3, that's audio. So being able to transmit audio across the internet is a very powerful thing, because that's how you influence people through music. You also are able to influence people through spoken word. And I know that usually people are able to read text, but music adds a whole new dimension to an experience. Music brings meaning to words, while we look at mp4. mp4 is then an expansion from music, in that you can use music, you can use text, and you can use images, all these different things, and in a way to connote an idea. So people can experience your ideas through video. And I think that's a lot. It can be sometimes, most often, I feel like video can be much more digestible than just text by itself. One can make the argument that yes and no, depends, and I think that is definitely the case. But for me, I think about somebody, because I teach kids in my day job, and one of the most important aspects of learning is visualizing. So your ability to visualize what you're thinking will dictate how well you're able to retain the information. So in truth, everything, the concept of the thing is often what we're working towards. So we're not just trying to be given a formula and solve. In learning, we want to understand why that formula works. Where did it come from? From what concept was it born out of, right? What is the overlaying idea of this equation, and how does this relate to my life, right? Because that's really the goal, to have learning become something that's integral, that's a part of the individual. So then, in my meditations and thinking about this, I've realized that learning is facilitated through animation, right? Like the professor who uses the whiteboard, this is why we use the whiteboard, right? This is the reason the teacher uses whiteboard and PowerPoint slides, because the drawing and the visual process of even creating the drawing, that's animation. And so you see one of the most popular channels, you're gonna see people who are really able to help the individual visualize the concept. Oftentimes, what people seek is clarity, and to be able to see something that it seems so foreign in a way that's relatable. Now that is powerful. Now that is where you can learn, and that's really the thing with learning and teaching. Is like your ability to present something in a way that is already known. Think about that. Your ability to present something that is already known in a way that feels like it's already known, rather than telling people that this is something foreign. And at the end of the day, it's not about presenting material in a way that the person consumes something foreign outside of them. It's about reminding the student of something that's already inherent within them. But now I'm just presenting a new perspective, a new way of seeing these things. So that's a whole nother talk. But the reason that's my thought process, right? And so in thinking about that, I realized, well, if it'd be great if I'm able to in some way, while I'm teaching, as I'm speaking, there's figures and drawings coming out of my hands, coming out of my voice, and as I'm speaking, the student's able to see these images that I'm transferring over to them. So I'm speaking in metaphors and presenting different things that might, that paint a bigger picture, and hopefully these are things that the student is familiar with, and they say he or she's able to grasp onto at least an aspect that is familiar. And once you can do that, then you have a link, because now you can drive it towards the connection, right? You want to drive it towards the connection that, going from unfamiliar to finding something familiar, and then making the whole thing that is unfamiliar familiar. All right, and so this process of teaching the unknown is really this idea of bridging the unknown with the known, right? And that's the teacher, right? So anyways, I would keep thinking about this tool. What is the best tools, the best technologies that will enable me to do that in the best way? Now, when I got into YouTube, I was heavily into creating videos. And then, as I got deeper into it, I realized that I have to learn how to animate, because if I can animate, then I can bring these abstract ideas in a way that people can see and then experience and feel that, so now it's not just my voice speaking, it's also animations coming to life, bringing these concepts to life. And oftentimes people find that helpful, being able to put a name to a thing that is there lingering, but we don't know exactly what it is. That is powerful. That's what a lot of people do. That's what a lot of business comes from, the ability to bring clarity to an individual. That's the whole thing. And so a lot of businesses are based on that. So then what I'm saying, and what I've been thinking about, is mp5, right? What is mp5? And so mp4 is video. mp5, I was thinking it's gonna be virtual reality, but I think it's software. Now, software has already existed for years. I don't know what came first. I think video came before software. That's what I want to think. But software in a way that's dynamic. So you look at some websites, or you look at some software, video games, for example. And now I think that might be it, right? There's a very close linkage to video games and videos, right? Video games and videos. And the thing that links them is software. And so as I've been creating some software with AI, right? I'm learning about computer science also, so I want to learn how to code and program, but I'm learning about programming in general, and I'm learning how, wow, this thing is able to, through a computer, I can literally capture images of actions that I'm doing. I can capture the sequencing of what I'm doing, and I can input that somewhere, and this sequencing of my actions can be repeated. So it's like I have 10 of me out there, hundreds of me out there. After every act, it's looping, and so I'm able to multiply myself through this. And this is powerful. It's super powerful, and I love it. I love this experience, because then while I'm doing this, I'm just thinking about, how can I use this in a way that serves people? And I'm thinking about creating dynamic experiences with software. And I'm like, okay, but why do I want to go there? I don't want to be a computer scientist. I don't want to be locked down into this thing. So what is the essence of programming that I'm learning, that I'm going to be extracting and using for future manipulation, future creation? because I got deep into YouTube. I ended up dropping that in the direction that I was going. I ended up dropping that. I still get excited about learning animation, and I should continue to learn, and I will. But I'm finding that there's a bridge being built between animation and programming. But because it's being built because I was able to take the leap and see how, just start from zero. And so I found that, a lot of web designers use animations in their web designing. If you look at video games have to use a sort of animation to show specific actions, the swinging of the sword and, just, all that stuff. And so now I'm here where I'm realizing that the mp4 is programming, it's software. And why is it mp4? Why is it higher level? I think it's higher level because it's much more, you're not just being told like in a video, although there can be video that makes you think, obviously. You're interacting with the content itself, and that's powerful. Being able to interact with the content itself. So if you click one thing, then it does this. If you click another, then it does that. And so that within itself creates a much more immersive experience, and allows the individual to I believe it allows them to retain or learn more, or have a more easily transformative experience. Now, the reason I think about this is because I just want to help individuals reach their higher selves, and so that's what my content was about. And this channel is about me sharing my process of doing this. So helping people reach their higher selves, that has to come. You have to be able to have an individual abstract how to think in the world of the mind. I was reading Plato yesterday, and he was talking about the world of the mind being what frees the soul, right? It's where we want to go, basically. So the world of the mind is the key to liberation, to awakening, and so that means your ability to abstract, to think in terms of concepts, that needs to be developed. And it's not easy to develop that because education doesn't teach you that. Education is mostly focused on memorizing, and we don't really understand, we just memorize. And so that's what my day job entails a lot, like helping students think in terms of concepts. And so with that, I realized that there's a power in that, and I'm thinking about how can I create experiences that lead people to abstract and think of their souls and awaken. So that's mp4. And why is this relevant to you? Well, maybe you're wondering, what's the next step of evolution? What's the next step of our evolution? It's gonna be these immersive technological experiences where we're able to, in a way, collaborate with technology so that it evolves us consciously. So then mp6 would have to be virtual reality. That's where it happens. And since that's where it happens, I think I'm eventually going to have to learn how to use virtual reality. And I might get into things like video games. So, it's something that I'm excited about, because this was from just exploring nowhere. It was just going nowhere. Like, I was super, super doubtful about going in this direction of programming. I'm grateful for having AI come into my life and showing me and pushing me to do this. And now I'm a programmer. And that's crazy. But now I'm thinking in terms of a programmer. And so to be able to think like a programmer is different than being a programmer. Right? To think like a programmer means embodying the essence of the programmer, while being the programmer is performing the duties of what a programmer usually does. Now, performing the duties of what a programmer usually does not always entail that you're going to be a great programmer. It just knows that you know how to fill the job. It knows how it just says that you know how to play the role. But oftentimes you know the meaning of the role. And that's where the question goes to. What is the meaning of the role, and how does this apply to other aspects of life, and how does this relate to much higher complex situations. You know, what does it mean to be a programmer when you're a psychologist? What does it mean to be a programmer when you're a narrator? What does it mean to be a programmer outside of the world of computer science? Now that is where we have these like universal concepts and the ideas that really revolutionize the way that you think. So yeah, I guess I'll leave that question to you. What does it mean to be a programmer in your life? And then also, you know, food for thought in terms of what the future can hold. And maybe if you're interested in all of these things, videos, mp3, music, experiences, etc., yeah, just, you know, something that can help you with that. So I hope you found this helpful. See you in the next video. Stay lucid. Peace.